come through the gate to Graymalken Farm. Let's go and meet Jean de Gruchy. There's acres of flowers here, including some delicious ones. Gee, this is a wonderful gate.
Isn't it?
Very unusual.
It's really, when we moved here, it was painted a metallic gray, and I painted it black, and I think it shows better. But there used to be a gate like this over on the cemetery over in Gallen East, and I was coveting it so we could have a pair. But
well, it's a great start, great entry to your garden. Really quite unusual. I can already feel the aromas of the different herbs. I mean, it's quite exquisite. Is this basil right in the front?
Yes, this is Reuben here. It's been developed to take the place of dark opal, which they're having trouble germinating without a lot of green in it. And the larger leafed green beside it is crispum. And
these are variants on basil. I don't have enough fingers, you know, to keep the aromas separate.
I always think somebody should develop a basil perfume because you'd have all the men trailing along behind you if you wore a basil perfume.
How do you keep each time you're grabbing it?
That's garden sage. And when you're getting the scent of a herb, you rub the oil on your hand and smell your hand. And then by the time you've toured the garden, you're just like a great salad.
Is there something you can do after you've done the first two to start again?
Well,
that's the problem.
You just blend it all together. It's wonderful. This one over here is anise, and it has just a subtle licorice scent.
This one I like. Oh, it's a basil too.
Yes, it's a basil. And the one next to it is cinnamon. They're very similar in appearance. Basil? Yes. Wow. And here's a little. I always have a green thumbnail because I'm always going around taking little bits.
Isn't it? The flower's quite exquisite.
They both have a purple veining.
That's exquisite. Do you dry these flowers as well? I mean,
actually, they're edible flowers. We grow edible flowers here as well.
Just eat them like this?
Yes, you can eat the flower of any culinary herb. But you should know what the other flowers are before you start eating them. But the other thing that's wonderful to eat is the seeds from the fennel over here.
Oh, let's try that.
The fennel seeds are just wonderful. Most people, when they have a little chew on a fennel seed, say, it reminds me of the black balls that we used to have as children.
It is.
Isn't it delicious?
Fennel. Can you eat just the flowers as well? I mean,
Yes, the flowers could be eaten in a salad. The little flower is wonderful in a salad. Adds that subtle licorice.
That's much more subtle, and it's got a nice.
And in this garden, you always see things that are cut back. We decided...
the rue, I see this is heavily pruned here.
Yes, it's been cut back. We harvested the seed heads for the rue. And in the lower herb garden, you'll see that there are always patches that are harvested. We decided when we were designing the garden that even though it was a harvesting garden, we would make it beautiful. And so while we're always cutting things away, it still has a certain area that's beautiful.
Oh, I've got to try some more of this. That's unbelievable.
Isn't it wonderful?
Now, Jen, you told me a trick earlier that now I've got the flavors all over my fingers. If I reach the parsley, it'll neutralize it.
Yeah.
And that's very important when you're going around with so many different flavors. So I can just
take a sprig of parsley and clean your fingers.
It'll neutralize my fingers, and I can eat it too. We could spend all day here.
We intend this autumn to put a staircase down here because we find that when we have older people visiting, that going down the steep bank is quite difficult for them.
Well, for sure.
And we're also going to put a sitting area up here because a lot of the older people just enjoy sitting and watching everyone else walking around.
It's a beautiful view. Obviously, southern exposure will help the plants here, but does the slope also have a benefit?
Oh, yes, particularly for the lavender. It really needs a well-drained site or to winter over, particularly in our zone here, which is bordering zone 5. So, no, this is just ideal, and we intend to extend that lavender bank right across the whole area here, so that it should be just wonderful when it's finished.
Well, I mean, the herbs are lovely because they're, like so many plants, they give you, 2 or 3 benefits at once. You've got wonderful colors here and a wonderful sort of garden plus that, you know, you can eat them and you can
That's right.
flavor and you can
And the
dry them.
aroma.
I mean, it's wonderful. I'm always taken by the plants that give you all these additional benefits. I mean,
Well,
you just think,
that's the wonderful thing about herbs. They're useful. And not only are they beautiful, but they have so many uses.
wow. Oh, it made my fingers feel good. Anyway, let's go down and have a look a little more. The first part of the garden, I notice, is this great formal garden here.
Yes, this bed is primarily designed with annuals, so we're fortunate it gives us a lot of color at this time of year. The tall purple plant in the center is orac, or Parisian spinach.
Orac?
Orac, O-R-A-C-H.
Is that another edible?
Yes.
Wow.
The small leaves can be used in a salad, or if the leaf is larger and a little tougher, you can shred it and put it in your salad.
Oh, that's quite an aroma too.
And this wonderful plant here is an annual. It readily self-sows, Salvia horminum.
Really?
It's a clary sage.
Clary sage. Oh, I'm going to try some of this too.
And just
Oh,
down
that's
in
quite
front
strong.
of the clary sage
Yes.
is an edible zinnia.
An edible zinnia.
Yep.
Good
You
gracious.
aren't going to need lunch by the time
Oh,
you finish
no.
here. But that's, most men blanch when they see the flowers in the salad, but you seem to be able to get away with
Oh,
it.
yeah. Well, that's quite a strong flavor,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Very peppery.
Mm. And the leaves or mostly the flowers?
Well, the flower.
I mean, most people think, you know, now know that you can eat nasturtiums, but there must be lots of other flowers as
Oh,
well.
yes, rose petals, violas.
Violas.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then, as I said, any of the
This is
flowers from a culinary herb, such as, you
Yeah.
know, little caraway flower or garlic chive, and regular chives.
Wow.
This is a bronze fennel here. It's in the early spring, very much lighter in color and more of a wine color, and it blends really well with the orac behind it. But now, of course, it's quite mature and the color it goes a little greener.
But it's a lovely, airy, tall plant as well, which I like. You know,
Yes.
it's gives a nice feel in the bed. What a great, I mean, and most of these are edible.
Yeah, well, not all of them, though. You wouldn't eat the Salvia horminum, but
No.
calendula petals, English
Yeah?
marigold here, they're wonderful in cottage cheese.
Really?
Yeah, they have a very peppery taste as well.
These?
Yeah.
And it's the flowers that you put in?
Yeah, you pick the flower head and pull the petals off.
Oh. And just pull a petal off, and you can eat the petal.
Yep.
I'm going to try this. Mmm. Yeah, that's a much lighter taste, isn't it? It's an English, this one.
English marigold calendula.
It's a calendula, yeah. And you can just eat it.
Yep.
It's a more delicate flavor, but as you say, this is something you could put into a salad.
Yes, or cottage cheese, or I do herb
cheese.
butter and
Herb butter.
put the calendula petals in just to give it a little color.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. I mean, it gives salad a wonderful kind of color in the green. I didn't know that. After the break, more delightful features at Graymalken Farm. And this is a more formal part of the garden here, Jean.
Yes,
It's like-
I call it a lazy man's knot garden because Philip does all the trimming, so it makes it a lot easier.
Jean, this is a knot garden, but this doesn't look like conventional boxwood, which you normally find around a knot garden.
No, the two hedges in the foreground are germander, and to the left is hyssop.
Oh, this one's a really pruned hyssop.
It's wonderful.
Oh,
There's a
I've gotta try
hyssop
that.
plant over there in its natural stage. It's
Oh, this
quite
is a fully
spiky.
grown, yes.
So you can see that if you keep it trimmed as a hedge, it just stays very winter's over well. The one over to the south there is a new hedge this year because we had lavender in there, and because this isn't as well drained here, a lot of the plants died out over the
Yes.
winter. So you can see in 1 year how well it's come
So
along.
that's lavender and
No,
hyssop?
No,
oh, that was lavender.
There was lavender there. It didn't do well there, so we changed it to hyssop.
I mean, it's amazing pruning hyssop down like this. I mean, it's intensely fragrant. You don't like it, I can see. Well, what's growing in the middle?
Well, that's a southern wood. It's Camphorata. It grows more compactly than Abrotanum and is easily kept in this shape.
Well, But a grasshopper just jumped into it.
Oh, good.
I mean, that's amazing.
Isn't it wonderful?
I mean, I should have brought the parsley with me. I'm just covered in flavors. What's the little one in here?
That's Cuban oregano. Yes, it's a wonderful plant. It makes a marvelous house plant too. Easily started from a cutting like that.
Yeah.
It's grown for its scent, and we use it in potpourri. The leaf does yellow down when it dries, but it's not unattractive in potpourri.
But it's quite thick. It's like a
Yes,
succulent
it is,
almost. I
yes.
mean, oh, it's quite juicy too.
Yeah, and the scent is marvelous.
isn't
All
that
you have to do is rub against the plant in the house, and you've scented the whole room.
That's great. And can a lot of these plants be grown in the house as well? I mean, in pots?
Yes, well, some of them, although I don't find I have them winter over too well, but tarragon and basil and chives and parsley.
Yeah, and rosemary, I suppose, stuff like that.
Rosemary.
You know, when you brush by it or
That's right,
dog
without doubt.
brushes by, you get a lovely flavor. Gosh, Cuban oregano. Huh. Well, let's go and see it. We've got another couple of beds over here, which are quite floral too. Jean, this is a lovely flower bed in its own right, but I'm sure there's a purpose behind it. There seems to be behind everything you're doing. Well, the Asclepias is beautiful right now.
This is a pet project of our daughter, Sarah. She's trying to help the monarch butterfly. So if a monarch butterfly caterpillar eats from the Asclepias plant, a bird will not eat the caterpillar. So we have put in 2 patches of this plant, and we pick the monarch butterfly caterpillars from this plant and take it over to an area to the south so that they can have a good feast and still leave these flowers looking not too badly. And it's worked very well. We've had chrysalises all over the fence, and our daughters photographed them at various stages. She even got a photograph of it emerging from the chrysalis.
So it makes the butterfly, the caterpillar poisonous to the birds.
I believe there's an anesthetic in it, and so that it would numb them, I expect, a little bit.
You have milkweed growing wild on the farm to feed the butterfly itself?
Yes, we do, although we're working on an area over to the west there, a wildlife area, which hasn't been coming along too well. We're a little disappointed. It looked better last year than it does this year. But everything we've planted there has a seed or a berry, something that will attract the birds. The next thing we have to do is get something to shelter them, so we have to get some evergreens in there.
But it never ends in a garden like this, I guess.
No, there's always something.
Well, it's great. Thanks so much for showing us around this morning.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.